Welcome back, focused learners, to another explainer. Today, we're bringing a sharply scientific lens to a practice that has absolutely fascinated the modern wellness world. We're talking about Kambo. It's the dried, highly bioactive defensive skin secretion of the Amazonian giant monkey frog, or if you prefer the science term, Philomedusa bicolor. As we're going to see, the biological reality of this stuff is vastly more complex, and frankly, way more intense than the simplified narratives you might have come across.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's the central tension we really need to unpack today. On one hand, you've got this booming neo-shamanic wellness market claiming the practice is some ancient, detoxifying miracle cure. But on the other hand, you have a stark biological reality, an insanely intense, violent physiological purge with some very serious documented medical risks. So where does the truth actually lie? Well, we're going to look strictly at the ethnobotanical history and the hard neuroscience to find out.
To get there, here's our game plan. 1. The Amazonian hunting magic. 2. The physical ritual. 3. A literal storm of peptides. And 4. The dangerous reality. All right, part 1. The Amazonian hunting magic.
So before we even touch on the global wellness trend, it's absolutely crucial to establish a respectful historical baseline here. Kambo's most thoroughly documented origins lie with the indigenous peoples of the upper Amazon, specifically the Matses people along the Peru-Brazil border. For the Matses, you have to understand, this wasn't some relaxing spa day or a vague spiritual cleanse. It was a highly pragmatic tool. It was hunting magic, taken strictly before a hunt to sharpen their senses, drastically increase their stamina, and steady the hunter's hands.
Now, what's really interesting about this worldview is that the ritual aims to strip away a specific negative energy called panema. Originally, to the Matses, panema literally just meant bad luck in hunting, but as the practice traveled out of the jungle and into urban settings, modern practitioners kind of broadened that definition to mean a sort of spiritual heaviness, depression, or laziness. The Western scientific study of all this began back in the late 20th century with an Italian pharmacologist named Vittorio Erspamer. He quickly realized that this amphibian carried an astonishing pharmacological library right in its skin. It's also really worth noting how they harvest it. Traditionally, the frog is gently tied by its limbs, the secretion is carefully scraped off onto a little wooden stick, and then the frog is released physically unharmed. And while the species is currently listed as least concerned by the IUCN, there are rising super valid concerns that the explosion in global Kambo tourism is placing some really unfair pressure on wild populations. Moving on to Section 2, the physical ritual. If you take away only one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this. Kambo is absolutely not a psychedelic. Unlike ayahuasca, psilocybin, or 5-MeO-DMT, which heavily target the brain's serotonin 5-HT2A receptors to produce visionary hallucinations, Kambo doesn't do that at all. It works on the body's opioid, cardiovascular, and gut receptors. The result is a violent, physiological purge. Zero hallucinations. It is a strictly physical event, not a visionary one.
So how exactly does it work? Well, you actually can't just swallow it. The fragile peptides would be instantly destroyed by your stomach acid. It has to bypass the digestive tract completely. First, the participant drinks a good amount of water. Next, a practitioner uses a smoldering stick to make these small, superficial burns on the top layer of the skin. The dried frog secretion is then reconstituted into a paste with water or saliva and dabbed directly onto those open burns. From there, the bioactive peptides absorb immediately into the lymphatic system and the bloodstream.
What happens next is a tightly choreographed and frankly brutal physiological storm. Participants feel an immediate, intense rush of heat. The heart races wildly, which is quickly followed by a dramatic plunge in blood pressure that can actually cause fainting. Capillaries start to leak, making the face, lips, and eyelids swell up. Practitioners colloquially call this frog face. And then, your gut just takes over. We're talking intense nausea, streaming eyes, and forceful vomiting. It's totally overwhelming, but the acute phase is surprisingly brief, usually passing in just 5 to 30 minutes.
Which brings us to Section 3, a storm of peptides.
So the crucial point here is that this isn't some mystical cleanse. It's incredibly precise neurobiology. Actually, it's more like a coordinated pharmacological assault on your body's signaling systems hijacked by specific peptides. Phylocarulin absolutely hammers the gastrointestinal tract, directly causing that intense nausea and vomiting. Philomedusin acts on the vascular system and glands, leading to vasodilation, streaming eyes, and a runny nose. Philokinin targets the B2 receptors to cause the blood pressure drop and that frog face swelling. And salvagine? That acts like the master hormone of your stress axis, prolonging the blood pressure drop and spiking your cortisol. Literally every symptom has a specific biological trigger.
But then there's the famous afterglow that users report. And to understand that, we need to look at this number right here, 1,000.
And this brilliantly illustrates why that number is so high. Going back to Earthbaumer, he discovered that Kambo contains dimorphin, a mu-opioid agonist that is up to 1,000 times more potent than morphine, depending on the tissue. It also contains deltaorphins, which are highly selective delta-opioid agonists. It's this massive flood of potent opioids that provides the post-purge analgesia and afterglow. On top of that, Erzbaumer discovered these opioid peptides possess a super rare D-amino acid structure. Basically, it's a mirror image molecular building block that makes these opioids incredibly resistant to enzymatic breakdown in the human body. That's exactly why pharmaceutical designers are so obsessed with them today.
Because of this deep neurobiological understanding, we need to firmly bust a massive myth promoted by the wellness community. The forceful vomiting is a direct peptide-triggered pharmacological reflex on the gut and brainstem. It is absolutely not toxins leaving the body. Naming this mechanism honestly doesn't diminish the experience, but it firmly replaces wellness folklore with rigorous physiological facts.
Let's zoom back out for section 4, the dangerous reality. We have to start with another vital number, 0. As in, despite the sweeping health claims made by modern facilitators, there are currently 0 controlled human clinical trials establishing any therapeutic benefit for Kambo. Right now, the benefits remain purely anecdotal. Yet, while the benefits are unproven, the dangers are heavily documented. Let's look at one of the most fatal, yet entirely preventable mechanisms, water intoxication. Practitioners often tell participants to drink excessive amounts of water before the ritual. However, Kambo's peptides trigger a syndrome that drives the body to retain all that water. This rapidly dilutes your blood sodium to critically dangerous levels, a condition called hyponatremia. When that happens, the brain actually starts to swell. In fact, a 2025 medical report documented a case of Kambo-linked brain death caused by this exact mechanism.
And it doesn't stop at water intoxication. There are severe physical risks from the intense cardiovascular stress and the violent purge itself. We've seen documented cases of sudden cardiac arrest triggered by those extreme blood pressure swings, and even esophageal rupture just from the sheer force of the vomiting. It goes without saying, but people with heart conditions or those taking interacting medications are at severe risk. And here's the scariest part. There's absolutely no antidote once a Kambo reaction goes wrong. These severe risks have led to corneal inquests and even an effective Schedule 10 ban in Australia back in 2021 after multiple fatalities.
So legally speaking, Kambo sits in a very confusing landscape right now. It largely operates in a massive gray area. It's not a federally scheduled or controlled substance in the United States, although authorities have issued serious health warnings. Meanwhile, as we mentioned, it's effectively banned in Australia, and its commercial marketing is strictly restricted even in its native Brazil.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? I think we have to keep this mindset. Understand the frog medicine for the extraordinary piece of natural pharmacology it is, and take its dangers exactly as seriously as the pharmacology deserves. We really must balance a profound respect for the Matzias lineage and this undeniable scientific marvel with a very sober acknowledgement of the profound medical risks involved.
Which leaves us with a massive question to consider. The sheer chemical power of the giant monkey frog is completely undisputed. But will modern science learn to isolate and harness these extraordinary opioid and vascular peptides safely? Or is unregulated wellness marketing going to continue to obscure the profound risks of the raw ritual? It's a fascinating intersection of ethnobotany, pharmacology, and global wellness trends. Keep asking questions, focused learners, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.